Hi, my name is Kyle Mink. I just wanted to be able to speak on what miracles that God can do and how He can use somebody that's got a broken past, a dysfunctional past. I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, my 3%, that it truly does help. It is healing that comes when you allow other people to come in and to be vulnerable to people. Not only does it help you, but the things that you have been through and the things that you go through, you never know. Your story can help somebody else that you had no idea that it could help. So I grew up in a church my entire adolescent life. I was there every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, pretty much. My grandfather was killed by a drunk driver, and then about 6 months later, which was also 6 days after my 11th birthday, my father died after having a triple bypass heart surgery. So I can remember the night that I found out about my father passing. I can remember standing in my aunt's front yard and cursing God. I was like, God, why would you take the two men that mean the most to me in my life and take them from me at such a young age? My mother never got over the fact of losing my father, and she never got in a relationship after that. So from the time that I was 11 on, I never had a true male role model in the house. It was hard to be able to know what exactly a man looks like, and the idea of a man that I had is not the true definition of what a man should be. I decided to start doing my own thing. Then I went and joined the Army. My brother-in-law was killed in Iraq by a sniper. He was supposed to be coming home for leave, and he ended up getting killed by sniper fire. Years down the road, I went back to Iraq, which is the same place that he got killed, in the same area of where he was stationed at. I would pray that I would get the green light to be able to go into a city block and just open fire. And I can remember asking that prayer many times. It never happened, and that's because of God, because the prayer that I was asking was not of Him or for Him. I got married years later, and it was not a marriage of God. I got really bad onto heroin and methamphetamine, and I was doing things that I am not proud of. I ended up losing my children, but I was on my way home, and I actually passed my kids in a DCS van and didn't even know it. That was hard to know, that once I got out of jail, that I couldn't see my kids, because I had been incarcerated for a while and got to see them through a jail screen, but not to be able to hold them or touch them. So at that point, I really started going down an even darker road of using heroin and methamphetamine, and that just led from small crimes to bigger crimes and destroying bridges with family and friends. People can change, and I am an example of somebody that can change. If you would have known me 3 years ago, you would not think that I'm the same person that I am, because I'm not. I am a recovering addict, because you'll never be, in my eyes, will never be fully recovered, because there's always that temptation, at least to me in my present walk, there is still that thought in my head of the possible temptation. Actually, I hurt my back and went to the hospital. I got prescribed some narcotics, and I was actually scared to take them because I didn't want to go back down that road that I had been on. But talking about God being able to use somebody that's been broken, somebody that you would look at on the streets and think, this guy is a bad guy. You would just think, like, God, there's no way that God can use somebody like him. I have to thank two people that are like my brother and my sister so much, because I don't know where I would be without them. I was homeless and on the streets, and I met them, and they ended up giving me a tent. They started bringing me to the church that I go to now. They're my family. But without them always being there, because they would drive to Bowling Green to pick me up, to bring me to church and take me back home. I have attended our church's men's retreat that we have every year for the last 2 years, and that's where I really learned about being vulnerable. Seeing men come together in Christ and be vulnerable, to talk about their 3%, to talk about what God has done in their lives. I recently just started talking more about my 3%, especially after our last men's retreat. And I had told one person while we were at men's retreat about this. The man that I told had a similar story to that, and we have been able to walk through that together. It's one of those things to where when you feel at your lowest, there could be somebody that's right there with you. It's hard to know if you don't open up and get it out there. It's a lot harder to carry that weight alone than it is to have people that can help you walk through it. I was diagnosed with severe PTSD. My doctor actually put in my file when my son was a newborn that he was scared because of how my PTSD was. I give those nightmares and those dreams to God that used to make me the person that I'd never want to be again. And that's just through God and prayer that I don't have those dreams or thoughts anymore. And I actually committed suicide, and it was just by the grace of God, and because he was not done using me, that I'm still alive. I done enough drugs to kill me, and my ex-wife was laying beside me asleep, and just the slightest tapping of my finger woke her up, and that was just the muscles in my hand that were still contracting and releasing is what woke her up. I hope that this video will possibly help somebody who is struggling with being vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, it's not only for you, it's for other people as well. Like I said in the beginning, there's the 3%. It's really hard to come and do something like this. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said no. I would never tell people that I don't know my story. I'll give you the 97%, but nothing of the 3%. I didn't tell my whole 3%, but I have to people my whole 3%. And it's just a lot easier to walk when you're not carrying all of that stress, that weight of that 3% that you are holding on to. Because 9 times out of 10, that 3% is dark. Once you get it out, it becomes in the light. So it's not so dark anymore. I just know for me personally that getting my 3% out to at least one other person has made my journey so much easier. No matter the things that you have done, your past does not define who you can be. The Lord can and will use broken people as long as you allow Him